We've made some minor augmentations.
Oh.
Fine. I'll do it myself.
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
You serious?
Welcome back to another N-Cut movie review. Today we have Godzilla and Kong, the New Empire. Or Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4 if you're familiar with the movie, but we'll explain that in this review, so let's just jump into it.
The plot of this film is your typical Godzilla Kong movie. It's the same old Hollywood rerun, reverb that we've seen over and over, where the titular characters team up to fight a common enemy. We want to start off by saying this is a kid's movie, straight off the bat. And the reason you get the vibe that this is a kid's movie from the start is because the color grading of this movie really shows and is pushing these vibrant sort of almost filter-like colors that looks a bit fake. Everything is green screen, everything is CGI in this movie, and that's sort of the vibe that throughout the movie it has, and that's what gives this sort of a kid's feel. A lot of the dialogue in the movie is also essentially written for children. You get these sort of one-liners that are not witty at all, that are just completely sort of dumbed down, but it's meant to just further along a little bit of the plot and just sort of have like that sort of comedic relief, even though for anyone who's into comedic movies, it's not funny at all. The movie is filled with a main sidekick little character, a tiny little King Kong that of course is going to get the eye of all the young kids, probably going to be the number one seller for kids action dolls at Christmas time with that little tiny monkey, which in a lot of kids movies these days, we're seeing that as a continuous theme, which isn't a bad thing at all. I mean, it's great, but it's sort of getting tried. We have BB-8 in the Star Wars movies. We have Grogu in The Mandalorian and mediums like that. It's not a bad thing, but it's just sort of so common, and it's like an easy way for them or people to look at that and go, oh. And in this movie it worked because he didn't really feel out of place. He wasn't like the damsel in distress, although he was for chunks of the movie. He also served a purpose in the plot. Another thing that would really push this movie for kids is there was enough bits and pieces of different sort of titans and characters, and I know that when we've seen like Monarch, the TV show, it's just full of titans. The last Kong vs. Godzilla was full of titans, and the Hollywood interpretation of this Godzilla franchise and world universe is all about getting as many of these titans on the screen as possible. Now, the only problem with that is they all feel diluted, these characters, and it's almost like Kong has just become one of the bros. He's just a human, essentially. Like, Kong is completely sentient in this movie. He's essentially a walking human being at this point. He has feelings, he feels pain, he gets a toothache. Like, the guy is completely human, and Godzilla is just completely an animal. They're on two different sort of spectrums in this movie, and the problem that you find when you have all these different characters in the movie is the movie feels like it's broken up into chunks where it's like, okay, we're going to dedicate the first 20 minutes to this character, and then the next 20 minutes to this character, and then the next 20 minutes to this character, and you never really get like a feel of whose movie it really is or who the movie's supposed to be about. It's sort of like, we'll just give this guy as much screen time as we can, and then we got to put this guy in, obviously, because he's in the title, and then we got to put this guy in, and then it just sort of feels diluted, and like the plot is not really going anywhere or doing anything. It feels like it's all just mundane side quests until eventually, you know, of course they team up Avengers style.
And the perfect example of that is some random main character who's just jumped into this movie for no reason, named Trapper. He was in no movies before, no Godzillas, no Kongs, nothing, and this guy has randomly jumped in here and now became the main character. Explain to me how that works. Out of a franchise that they're making, that you're now going to have some random dude take over the set as Ace Ventura and now put his own spin on everything, and his one-liner jokes. The guy's Steve Irwin, he knows it all. The guy's literally a walking Wikipedia, and it's just been put in here. It felt so out of place.
He literally is pretty much the main character in this movie, and you have absolutely no idea who he is whatsoever. And also, the lead actress, Rebecca Hall, who plays Dr. Eileen Andrews, feels like she's just a background character in this movie. The only sort of plot that she pushes forward is the fact that she's adopted Gia for the plot to continue, but the Trapper guy is just front and center in every single shot that these guys are in, and he's always saying, hang on, I've got an idea, or hang on, I've sensed something, or like the guy has 17 senses and he had a knack for just knowing everything. He's Bear Grylls in this bitch. Like, who even was he? The whole film, I'm like, who is this guy? I had to search up if he was even in any of the other movies, which of course he wasn't. And we're supposed to be like best buds with him. He literally rips out a molar, gives friggin' King Kong a root canal. And Rebecca Hall, who's been in the previous movies, along with Kaylee Hottle, who are pre-established characters who have been in the other movies, are just sort of pushed to the side. Like, Kayla Hoddle's whole story arc in this movie is she's just a vessel to act as some sort of god in this movie. It barely means anything. It does nothing. Her whole powers and everything does absolutely nothing.
And not only was the acting pretty average and pretty mundane, but along with this was the pacing. The pacing was just dreadful. In the first opening scene, you probably jumped through about 5 or 6 different countries, and I feel like I've traveled the world now. I reckon I've seen every single wonder of the world now. I've seen the ancient ones, and I've seen now the new established ones. What are we doing here? Well, am I going sightseeing, or am I going to watch a King Kong movie?
Yeah, I'm not sure if this movie was just one big travel advertisement to just show off all the different parts of the world where people want to travel to. Like, was it one big product placement of traveling? I'm not too sure.
And talking about product placement, did they have the cars in there with Volkswagen's product placement? It looks like I was watching an ad for Volkswagen halfway through this film. That didn't make any sense. A random scene chucked in there about Volkswagen. Who gives a shit? And Mercedes.
The first 30 minutes of the film really sets the tone for the fact that this is going to be a really mediocre movie, unless you're a kid. The CGI is deplorable. It almost looks like, if anyone out there has played the game No Man's Skies, but before it got updated, when it first came out and it was just a garbage game, No Man's Skies PS4 had better graphics than what this looked like. The color gradient of this movie was all over the shop. I think it was meant to create this sort of aura that they weren't really on Earth. They were in Middle Earth, so it was meant to create like a different world, but it just looked tacky and really bad in the background. And not to mention the color gradient of the camera itself filming was just shocking. Pretty
much the entire movie, the whole screen is blurry apart from that little center bit in the middle. Every scene it cuts to, you're thinking to yourself, do I have astigmatism? What's going on? Why is everything blurry at this point?
While we're on this topic, was that blurry for everyone else, or do we just at a crap cinema? Because the whole screen felt like I was drunk half the time, because the center of the screen, perfectly fine. Everything else, blurry. Why? It was like a dream sequence.
Yeah, I don't know if they were going for that, or it just was something that was wrong during post-editing.
And if they were going for that, why? What sort of effect did it add aside from the fact of me rubbing my eyes every 2 seconds thinking that I couldn't see straight? I had sketch vision.
Literally.
This is what sketch sees all the time.
Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
And on top of all of this, the movie has stolen so many scenes from different movies. It stole from the Planet of the Apes, legitimately Cobra, the bad guy, had a scar down his face. I'm pretty sure it was the same ape. The whole movie, I thought that. Biggest rip-off of Guardians of the Galaxy I've ever seen, as we mentioned in the intro. It literally is a Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4. Trapper, as we have already mentioned, is literally Star-Lord. The same music, trying to steal his aura, trying to steal his presence on screen.
It wasn't even like stealing his presence. It was actually just one step away from full-blown copyright. If they changed the name from Trapper to Star-Lord, it would have been copyright. That's why they had to make it Trapper. This might go down as one of the most random scenes I've ever seen in a movie. They are about to board some sort of a ship to go into Middle Earth, and for some reason, it drops into a slow motion montage of the 3 characters walking in a line with an 80s song typical to Guardians of the Galaxy playing in the background for like literally 2 seconds. The beat drops, 2 seconds, walking slow motion, then it just stops. Then they're back to normal, walking at the end of the scene. It had no meaning whatsoever, this scene, at all. And it was stolen straight out of Guardians of the Galaxy. Guardians of the Galaxy isn't the first to do something like that, but they pioneered the slow-mo walk with the cool music in the background and the action walk, the action stance. We all know what we're talking about here. And this movie stole that.
And on top of that, they jump into the fucking Banshee from Halo. As Georgie said at the very start, they go through about 4 or 5 different plot lines and storylines through here, and they mention literally none of them. None of them end apart from the fight. That's it. That's all that happens. The only good thing about these fight scenes was, I guess, kind of like the still shots that they had between Godzilla and Kong and the other bad guys, but that is all you get to see. And they had way too much slow motion. I don't know if Zack Snyder got in here and snuck onto set and got directing role and said, I'll make your movie a masterpiece like Rebel Moon. And if you've watched our past reviews, go watch that because you'll know how we feel about that film.
There's literally about 6 different storylines going on in this movie, and none of them get explained. At one point, you don't even know like what one of the plot lines is. Like, if you can tell me what Godzilla was doing in the first 20 minutes of the movie without getting to the end of the movie and then it getting explained to you, you're a genius. Because I had no idea what he was doing in the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes of the movie.
I'll tell you what he was doing. He was making us sightsee the rest of the fucking world. That's what he was doing. He was basically vlogging and we were going along with him.
Was it product placement to go to the Colosseum in Italy? I don't know. Did they pay for this movie to get people to want to go to the Colosseum? I don't know. But he's just chilling at the start of the movie and then name dropping titans like this. Like we're supposed to know what his end goal is. Godzilla is not even in this movie at all. You just see him do a few little things that aren't explained. You just know he's charging up for something, but they don't even say that. They just say, oh, Godzilla's here. He's evil. Like, wasn't he a good guy in the last movie? Aren't they mates? Doesn't get explained.
And another issue with this movie is it shows one little clip of Dr. Eileen Andrews studying the Hollow Earth tribe, and that is all you get told, and so she can read every hieroglyph, every ancient story that's ever been said, and you have a telepathic tribes member in this that can telepathically tell her what's going on, but that's not good enough. That's not good enough. She has to explain it to you because she's got nothing written in this film, so they need to at least make her do something, right?
Well, she has no dialogue in the movie. Like, no dialogue. She says 20 sentences in the movie and they mean nothing.
They're literally all one-liners. None of it actually progresses story until you get to this bit where she starts to tell you about the tribe, and there's literally a tribeswoman right next to her. Why are we hearing from her?
Why are we hearing from the savior about the tribe's history and about the tribes this and the tribes that, when the elder tribe is right next to her? She understands English and she's just like, yeah, I'll let this chick explain what's going on in my life, in our world, even though they've been living there for 1 billion years and they know Hollow Earth. Here comes this chick and she's just like...
Because she's read a book on Earth. Chill guy.
You're with the OGs. These are the people.
Let them explain.
These are the pygmies. One thing I found ridiculous about the movie as well is that Hollow Earth is clearly shown as this gigantic world where animals and dinosaurs, giant apes, Godzilla, all of them are living, and yet the humans can fly down in the Halo Banshee, Master Chief style, and they can walk amongst this Earth and have no danger whatsoever, to the point where, like Josh mentioned, they bring the chick's daughter, they bring some random guy, and they have only one dude on the whole ship that has a gun, and he doesn't even use it. How can they not get attacked and killed by everything in sight? It just makes no sense.
Now, the whole movie is prefaced around the little girl wanting to belong. That's the big picture about this, is that she feels like she never belongs ever, anywhere she goes, because her tribe's people were killed and slaughtered. Now, she finally finds her home. And what do you think the progression of the story might end up to be? She might stay here. She might actually stay with her tribe that she's been wanting to do for the however long she's been on this earth for. Now, what do you think happens? She stays or she goes? She leaves. Why is she leaving? Explain to me how you can build the story up to a point where she wants to stay and belong somewhere. That's her whole goal. That's her mission. You have one mission, belong. Now, that's not a product placement or an advert. That's what's sponsored by Belong. But in saying that, she then goes and finds her tribe. And they go, listen, I don't really want to stay here because you're where I belong. Where the fuck did you get that wisdom from?
And she has no friends. She doesn't get along with anyone in the real world. And then she's just like, I'll go back to it. For what reason would you go back to that world? You've found where you belong. You can speak to these people telepathically. No, I'm just going to chill.
If someone offered me a better place, I would move without a second thought. I wouldn't even fucking think, oh, listen, I've been there for 10 years, so let me kind of stay. Nah, I'm gone, bruv. I'm out.
And all she wants to do, like for most of the films that you've seen her in, is she wants to see Kong. She has the opportunity to be where Kong lives, and then she goes, now I'll go home. Back to the Earth.
That's her best mate, Kong. That's the only person or thing he's friends with her.
And I think what the movie was going for is this feeling of like, yes, she's staying with Dr. Eileen Andrews. Yes, how good does this feel? But when it happens, you're just like, okay. Because there's been no character development at all in this movie. They talked about it once, like at the start of the movie, and then they never touched on it again until that very end scene where they talk about it. And you're just like, oh yeah, right. She wanted to feel at home again, rightio. Like, you just don't care. You do not care at all. Another weird thing about this film was that we saw King Kong Brady throwing absolute dots downfield to his wide receiver ape friends. Tuesday formation where he threw deep to Gronk. I think the New England Patriots might be contacting him to get him as the quarterback. Why has he got such an arm? Explain to me how this man has the mechanics to throw so precisely. He needs to team up to go against Patrick Mahomes. Someone's got to stop Patrick Mahomes from winning all these titles. I need, please.
Someone testing for PEDs right now, because that was the most accurate. That's the most accurate pip I've ever seen.
Kong's getting drug tested at the end of this movie. I'm telling you right now, because man was throwing dots. And where did the Infinity Gauntlet come from, people? My man went full Thanos. They had Kong acting as 4 different characters in this movie. He's Kong. He is a guy with a toothache, just chilling. He's one of the bros. He's King Kong Brady, throwing dots downfield. And then he's Thanos. And then also Kratos. If you don't think that they were trying to get him to act as Kratos and the little monkey being Atreus, you're kidding yourself. Leviathan acts and all. He even has the grunt. I think I even heard Christopher Judge's grunt in the background for one scene because it was Kratos.
I swear to God, I heard boy.
I heard boy.
I heard it.
But it was in ape talk.
I heard it.
He literally grunted something and it sounded exactly like Kratos. And he even versed the world serpent. The world serpent's in there. Jorgamonda's in this movie. This movie just had so many weird things. Star-Lord. The guy was a pilot. We didn't preface this earlier, but Trapper was a pilot who could somehow fly the ship like no tomorrow. He's a vet. They prefaced that at the start of the movie. He's a vet. And yet he can fly this bitch like he's Star-Lord. Doing flips and shit, somersaults. He removes King Kong's tooth. and puts a metal one in, which they don't even show you how they put that tooth in, but no explanation at all. I mean, I know it's a movie about a giant ape and a movie about a giant lizard who can shoot rays out of his mouth, but, pause, no diddy. Where did they know how to put a fake tooth into King Kong? I don't know, man. Movies are just getting, like, really, 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 really stupid lately.
It's either that we analyze it so much that we start to pick out all this stuff, or movies are just not explaining anything anymore. They're just so brain rotted.
But also, one thing that I think would be really important to say is that if you wanted to see a Godzilla movie for Godzilla, you'd go see Godzilla -1. That was a great film. We gave it, I think, nearly a 10 out of 10 on this channel because it was seriously perfect. Now, a lot of the comments that we got about that movie was you've got one on one hand that is a Hollywood movie, which is the Godzillas that we're used to seeing now, and then which is the MonsterVerse Godzilla, and then you've got the Japanese version, which actually pays homage and pays respect to the original. And that's the difference in the world right now, is that Hollywood movies are just so flooded with let's get as many big names or as many big animals or as many characters as we can involved and just dilute the whole plot to the point where we don't even need to write a plot because we've just got big names, like however many big actors we can get in or however many titans we can put in to make the movie seem interesting. And we just want a good plot. We just want something that's interesting. We've seen the Titans in the last 2-3 movies, which the first one where they did this team up stuff where they had Mothra was really cool because you hadn't seen really anything like that before. But now we're 2 more movies and a TV show in, and okay, we've seen the Titans now.
We're past it. Oh god, this movie was just an absolute shit heap, but we're gonna have to wrap this review up. So I'm gonna rate this probably a 35%. If it's a kids movie purely and you're looking to go and watch this with your kid, they will love it. 100% they will love it. It is monsters on a screen, slow-mo, bigger monsters, bigger action. So if they're into the past 2 as well that's been made, or the past 1 that's been made, then they are going to watch this and love it. But a more real level of watching a movie as an adult, you're not going to. It's just so bad. It's mindless. Turn your brain off and just watch the film for what it is, because you don't think too deeply into it. It's going to be killing you. When you're hurting your soul watching this film.
Yeah, I'd probably give it around about a 35% too. We saw it on Rotten Tomatoes was 54%. I'm not sure where that rating comes from. This is what you come to expect from a Hollywood Godzilla. That's the best way to explain it. This is the most typical Hollywood film you're going to see. Big flashy fight scenes, terrible CGI, pretty much the norm of what we're getting these days, especially in this MonsterVerse. The filming of this was just weird. If you found the film gradient weird, please tell us, because maybe it might have been the camera in the cinema that we were watching, but color gradient was off. It was blurry, very odd. It's always cool seeing King Kong and Godzilla in these movies and on the big screen, but they need to stop diminishing Kong. The guy's essentially just a punching bag in these last few movies. He's just weak. He gets beat up. I know he can't shoot a laser out of his mouth, but it just is a bit annoying watching him. Like, if you watch the 2004 Peter Jackson's, one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. Maybe it's because I was young when I saw it. He's menacing. He's an animal. He doesn't get beaten. And yet in this movie, in this universe, he's just weak. And that just annoys me watching it. It really annoys me. I would probably never watch this movie ever again, like, ever again.
Anyway, guys, it's been another NCut movie review. Do not forget to like and subscribe. We're trying to hit 300, so please.
Hit that sub button.
If you want. No pressure.
There's pressure. Question of your day. Which of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies is your favourite?
Volume 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Or 4. This is Volume 4.
Anyway, guys, been another NCut movie review. Peace, we out. And cut.
Peace.
And cut.